I've been looking for an excuse to revisit Sonic Lost World. The game occupies an interesting space in the series. Released in 2013 for the Nintendo Wii U and 3DS, Sonic Lost World is barely 2 years removed from the series' high point, Sonic Generations. And yet, the game somehow veered left from the gameplay formula that had endeared the Blue Hedgehog to fans once again. In hindsight, Sonic Lost World jump-started another dark age of Sonic games, but while the mid-2000s would see Sonic falter as his developers tried to affix a variety of genres to his spines, the period following Lost World was effectively radio silence. There was a series of mobile games, Sonic Dash and the like, that saw Sega try and capitalize on the growing app-based game sector. There were also other spin-off titles, namely the Sonic Boom series. Despite earning a successful TV adaptation, the games in the series featured a wonky, uninspired 3D collectathon style, not dissimilar to Crash Bandicoot or Jak and Daxter, the creators of which would form the Sonic Boom developer, Big Red Button. Between 2013 and the time of this video in 2021, Sonic Team released one other proper 3D Sonic game, Sonic Forces. If I were to assign a metric to it, the game is playable and nothing more. It's not a buggy mess like Sonic 06 before it, but it's far from the electrifying romp that Sonic Colors was. Despite being a revival of the boost formula devised and unleashed and perfected in Generations, Sonic Forces was a frail carcass of a game that attempted to console its vapid level design with a customizable character that helped fan creations come to life. Simply put, the Sonic series over the last 8 years has left much to be desired. I'm genuinely worried about the future of the franchise, given the best product to release in that time span was effectively a fan-created one. Just as Sonic blitzes from level to level, Sonic Team can't seem to settle on a gameplay style that can carry the franchise's weight. And that's a problem considering platformers like Mario and Rayman can genre hop just fine. I'm honestly surprised at how well Bowser's Fury plays, considering it's Mario's first real attempt at an open world formula. But despite my, and probably your, frustration with the series, Sonic's music remains its most treasured feature, with even the worst games in the series earning at least passing marks in composition. At face value, Sonic Lost World is no different. It's a game that hears series veteran Tomoyo Otani take the lead with breathing life into its near 100-track song list. Diversity is the Lost World soundtrack's bread and butter, with more than 70 musicians contributing to the score. But given the series' forthcoming quality drop-off, did Sonic Lost World's OST live up to the hype? Or was the soundtrack merely a diversion that placated fans amidst another failed entry? Let's take a look back at how the highs and lows of the Sonic Lost World soundtrack made it too big to fail. The thing about constructing a soundtrack with so many composers and artists is that despite trying to make a cohesive project, personal styles usually shine through. The Final Fantasy VII Remake soundtrack was arranged by 3 composers, series veterans Nobuo Uematsu, Masashi Hamauzu, and Mitsudo Suzuki. Though the OST would feature plenty of remixes of past Uematsu tracks, it was evident when Hamauzu would take the reins. The battle theme for the train graveyard is all too clearly a Hamauzu piece, his angelic strings and piano taps indicative of his personal style. Or, in Sonic Adventure 2, the wealth of composers each brought their own noticeable flares to each of the styles of the music, none more recognizable than Jun Tsunoya's ravenous electric guitars. Like many of its predecessors, Sonic Lost World was organized by multiple composers. Led by Tomoyo Otani, Takahiro Eguchi, Naofumi Hataya, and Jun Tsunoya all contributed to crafting the Lost World sound. At first glance, most people would probably take Otani or Tsunoya as the best composer from the bunch, as both are responsible for some of the most iconic soundtracks from the classic and modern eras. I'm particularly fond, however, of Hataya. He's responsible for a few of the mixes from Sonic CD, namely Palm Tree Panic, Quartz Quadrant, Stardust Speedway, and Metallic Madness. As good as Stardust Speedway Bad Future is, with its funky vocal samples and driving mechanical beat, Quartz Quadrant Good Future is one of the most intricate Sonic pieces from the classic games. Though it's obvious that Hataya was able to take full advantage of the Sega CD's ability to play back real instruments, Quartz Quadrant Good Future mixes a wobbly bass line beneath a simplistic acoustic guitar rhythm and a keyboard synth melody that shines like the futuristic mind it plays in. This track epitomizes the man vs. machine motif of Sonic CD, and I'm forever thankful that Hataya penned the track. Even though I've come to identify Sonic with some of Hataya's, as well as Tsunoya, Eguchi, and Otani's creations, the Sonic Lost World soundtrack is just different. Whereas past games saw the soundtrack follow genre thematics, think Sonic Colors having electropop to drive its interstellar design, while Sonic Adventure favored hard rock to capture the sensory overload of the Hedgehog's newfound 3D playground, Sonic Lost World doesn't fall into simple categories. In a sense, the soundtrack is a lot like Sonic Unleashed, drawing inspiration from a wealth of sounds and instruments from the world over. but while Unleashed took influence from the realistic worlds Sonic would dash through, the hyperfictitious Lost Hex of Sonic Lost World is noticeably less identifiable. The oddity of the Lost Hex, namely that it appears to be more Mario influenced than anything Sonic Team had ever produced to this point, isn't too far-fetched when you consider where Sonic Team was at the time. In 2013, Nintendo earned the rights to 3 exclusive Sonic games for its consoles. Lost World was the first, followed by Mario and Sonic at the Sochi Olympic Winter Games, and Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric. I didn't find any reference that game director Takeshi Iizuka drew from Mario explicitly, but you'd be hard-pressed not to see the comparisons. Beyond the tubular, gravitational level design, which immediately drew comparisons to Super Mario Galaxy, the game follows the level theming of a title like Super Mario Bros. 3. Sonic visits grassland, desert, tropical, forest, sky, and lava-themed worlds in almost a one-to-one recreation of New Super Mario Bros. U. The Yoshi's Island DLC level also serves as a reminder that Sonic never fully shakes the plumber, as shuttle loops meet piranha plants and Shy Guys. Lost World does subvert this pattern by interspersing each area with out-of-character levels. In the desert world, players draw through desert ruins, which nixes the sand and pyramids in favor of all things sugary and sweet. Musically, however, this means that despite most levels following clear tropes, the soundtrack takes unprecedented turns that break up the cohesion. For example, after the Arabian-sounding Desert Ruin Zone 1, the Zone 2 song, Sugar Lane, lays on the sweetness with a bubblegum pop Hataya composition that would be his only contribution to the OST. On the one hand, this is new and refreshing ground for Sonic, a series which tends to favor remixes for subsequent zone themes rather than unique compositions. In my eyes, however, it gives the soundtrack less staying power, as each track feels more like a single than part of a cohesive album. Think back to Sonic the Hedgehog 3, when you enter Ice Cap Zone and are met with a simple but athletic theme as Sonic shreds down a mountain in Act 1. By Act 2, however, the song stripped back the heavy-handed melody for a sparse remix, the relative emptiness capturing the thinning atmosphere as Sonic ascends to the top of the mountain. Sonic Lost World lacks that progression, and while there are plenty of strong tracks among the bunch, the missing cohesion takes the soundtrack a peg in my book. Most Sonic games are light in story. Eggman is plotting to take over the world, and Sonic has to save it. In addition to solid gameplay mechanics, Sonic games enthrall players with stunning visuals accompanied by thematically appropriate music that ramps up in intensity as Sonic and pals traverse varied landscapes. Lost World misses focus on this, leaving behind a soundtrack that never really cements its importance to the story. Where the OST does shine, however, is in its sheer size. Otani noted that the game's new design offered them the chance to experiment with styles and genres. Sonic Lost World featured new terrain types like tubes, spears, codified visual expressions. Given that the game design approach was so overhauled, the songs I composed had to match these new concepts musically. Instead of adopting heavy, hard-edged sound, I thought in particular that freely using all sorts of live instruments and injecting a light pop vibe would fit this game well. He wasn't alone in playing those live instruments. Otani enlisted more than 70 musicians to contribute to the Lost World OST, which added to the overall vibrance of the soundtrack. His efforts are immediately noticeable, as the first level theme from Windy Valley hears 10 musicians coalesce to perform what amounts to a breezy tribute to Sonic intro levels from the past. The tune is a lighthearted romp that eases players into the bulbous and colorful Lost World. The game is nowhere near as dark as Sonic 06, or even Unleashed, and the peppy violin-led track feels like a cheery Saturday morning. At the same time, the sweeping melody plays in contrast to typical Sonic intro level fare. Some of the most memorable opening levels from Sonic, Green Hill, Emerald Hill, City Escape, Apotos, feature short staccato rhythms and melodies that really play up Sonic's budding sense of speed. The choppier beats fall in time with enemies as they whiz into Sonic's field of view. I won't go so far as to say Lost World and Windy Hill are bad, but the track's meandering melody seems better suited for an exploratory platformer than one rooted around speed. Replicating live instruments has always been a strong suit for Sonic games, and the use of heavily orchestrated pieces here gives the soundtrack lasting appeal. On the Zone 1 track for Tropical Coast, Otani employs a lazy reggae bassline from Akinori Yamada, complemented by the steel pan and a medley of trumpets, sax, and trombone. This track peels out into the more upbeat version for Juice Archipelago, reviving the previous instrumentation with added banjo and accordion for a livelier tune. As pieces of music, both Tropical Coast songs are fun and engaging, but as level themes, they leave a lot to be desired. While Zone 1 has a very clear bounce to its rhythm, the level itself is little more than a series of long pathways, interrupted by egg robos and other baddies. Juice Archipelago suffers a similar fate, as a jovial track with an abysmal level gimmick. To progress, Sonic has to coerce giant pieces of fruit to follow him into a blender that will shoot juice to propel him to the next segment of the level. In a game about speed and platforming, this level never leaves the starting gate, and highlights one of the many points when poor gameplay hears a stellar music track go to waste. Snowball Waltz, the song for the Frozen Factory level that features Sonic enveloped in a snowball traversing narrow passages over a boundless pit, is similarly jarring. As the title conveys, the oboe and trumpet melody follows a distinct triple meter pattern. However, the lack of platforming, and frankly, the need for Sonic to slow to a crawl to navigate the tight passages, means the music is simply a tease for an uneventful level design. Still, the soundtrack level pairings aren't all bad. Silent Forest, a level in which Sonic runs, jumps, and grinds through a spider and alligator infested forest, adopts a jazz noir style that harkens back to the likes of Security Hall from Sonic Adventure 2. Later, when Sonic outmaneuvers a watchful owl in Act 2, the tango-inspired track provides a steady rhythm as he hops over floating platforms while dodging following enemies. I'd be remiss not to mention the fan favorite, Sea Bottom Segway. This track plays during grind-exclusive levels that take place at the bottom of the ocean. The calming string melody mimics the flowing water all around Sonic, and the changes in tempo match with the green and red rails that change Sonic's speed from fast to slow. Careening Cavern is another stellar track. As the music for the underground levels, it very clearly takes inspiration from the trembling bass line of Mario World 1-2. But when Sonic meets the rolling boulder sections, the track gets spruced up by a jazz guitar that brings Sonic back to his patented funky roots. Taking a turn from the level themes, the sub-bosses for the game, the Deadly Six, fall into an odd place. They're incredibly basic enemies of the week, represented more by their overblown personality traits than any meaningful addition to the story. The Deadly Six theme features a jazzy ensemble that makes the group out to be less threatening than Eggman, and rightfully so. Many of the boss fights just last 2 or 3 hits. Like so many other aspects of this game, it's unfortunate to hear such great music caught up in a product that never really figures out what it wants to be. Two of the chief inspirations for Sonic Lost World were childhood fairy tales. Iizuka said in 2013 that the tubular level design was in part a tribute to Jack and the Beanstalk, while Alice in Wonderland informed the game's generally wacky nature. This game is like going into the rabbit hole in Alice in the Wonderland, an action game where you can experience many strange and fun experiences. The departure helped differentiate Sonic Lost World from Generations. Rather than paying tribute to 2 decades of Sonic, Lost World forged a new path forward. Gameplay-wise, that was achieved, for better or worse, through new levels, a run button, a chain homing attack, and other additions. Sonically, Lost World comes off as too big to fail, touching on a variety of genres that never make the game setting feel truly developed. In the grand scheme of things, Sonic Lost World will probably be lost at the hands of times. Though the game was re-released on PC in 2015, its relegation to the Wii U makes it feel like it's not really a mainline Sonic game. Control-wise, it's the only one of its kind, as Sonic Team is yet to revive the run button that propelled the Hedgehog in this game. While Forces can slot into the traditional boost format titles, and Mania directly harkens back to the 1990s, Lost World is something of a black sheep, and no matter how interesting the music may be, it can't help the game escape its sense of mediocrity.